Oh my gosh, I had the mute button. I'm sorry. I had myself on mute. Y'all can hear me now? Okay, can y'all hear me now? Hopefully. It's off of mute now. Let me know if you guys can hear me in the comments. I want to make sure I'm good before I move forward. Um, okay, great. Okay. Okay. So, first of all, for those of you who are here with me late tonight, thank you. As I was saying before while I was on mute, I've been trying to go live all day and just life happened. So we're here late tonight. But before I hop into tonight's subject, please get the likes up. Tag anybody on this topic who you think may find it interesting, who was awake or who will be awake within the next few hours. We're gonna talk about it. So the title of the live, do Black women deserve to exist? I asked this question a few hours ago in the community tab, and I just wanted to go over a few comments before I just hop right into exactly what I wanted to discuss. So I asked the question, do Black women deserve to exist? Here were some of the comments I got. Um, Everyone deserves to exist. This isn't something I could ever find myself disagreeing with, no matter how much disdain I feel towards a particular group. They deserve to be free and do whatever they please with life God has given them. See other comments. Of course, we don't hate Black women. We did disapprove of the things being done. Another one, absolutely, Black women deserve to exist and to thrive contently. However, I love your provocative question, and I'm sure it will incite great commentary. Shout out to Randall Johnson for that. I see, of course, Black women deserve to exist. If there's no Black woman, then there's no Black men, which includes me. Plus, I love Black women. I like seeing them and being in y'all's presence. So let me know what y'all think. Do Black women deserve to exist? I'd like to hear from you. Leave your comments in the comment section. Let me leave a few more off before we go in. I see a yes, indeed. I see a yes, of course. And again, of course they do. I see yes, 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 yes. And so 100% of all the comments I've gotten, and I just asked this a few hours ago. So it's still early on, but all the 20 comments I got that said yes, 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 and yes again. So y'all let me know what you think. Do Black women deserve to exist? Leave your comments in the comment section. I want to hear from you. Now, what's my position on the matter? Black women absolutely deserve to exist. I mean, I'm a Black woman, so I'd be crazy to not to say that. I love being a Black woman. I love Black women. I have many Black female friends, sisters, family members. There's just so much to love about us. So I love when I see us working together, when I see us being positive, when I see us building, when I see Black women embracing who they are and loving that and being the best they can be. I love it. And yeah, so yes, absolutely, I believe Black women deserve to exist. Now, the reason I want to ask this question is, while I believe that if you were to ask 100% of Black people, 99.9% of them would probably say yes. I'm sure there's a small percentage out there who would say no, they just do not deserve to exist. Most people would say yes, Black women deserve to exist. The issue is there is a large percentage, or there is a sizable percentage of Black people who don't act like it. Their actions don't actually line up with what they say. What I mean is, and I've spoken about this before. Anytime you have a culture or you have a standard where it is become commonplace and it has become acceptable and even encouraged to discourage, to disdain, to fight against Black love, Black families, and specifically to demonize Black men, what that means in the long run is that there's no more of you. There's no more Black women. And what you're basically saying and proving by your actions, if you are one that believes Black love is struggle love, if you are convinced that Black love is 100% associated with struggle or death or violence or dustiness or whatever, if you are of that mindset, then by your actions, you don't believe Black women deserve to exist. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how you live. It doesn't matter if you call yourself the Black, dark skinned, fighter, activist, whatever. It doesn't matter if you have an entire channel dedicated to Black women, to dark skinned Black women, whatever. If what you are saying and doing will lead to the extinction of you, will lead to people like you no longer being born, you in essence do not believe Black women deserve to exist. And while, as I said before, there are plenty of I believe at least most people, 99% of people in the Black community, if asked this question, would say, yes, of course Black women deserve to exist. Of course. Why would you even ask this question? The actions of many speak to something different. So thank you for those of you who have hopped on. Please get the likes up. Again, I'd like to hear from you guys. Do you believe Black women deserve to exist? So anyways, also, if you want to support this channel, you can find me on Cash App and Venmo. I appreciate all of you guys who've been showing some love and support. Share this message out to anybody who you think may find this interesting. So I believe there's actually women out there, people out there who by their actions do not believe Black women should exist. And so I want to get a little more specific. I did a few videos earlier last week where I went over two trending topics. One was like abortion. I think it was Cynthia G did this whole thing about abortion and should Black women abort their kids and Black boys. And the reality is a lot of Black women already are aborting their kids. So it's kind of like, that question is kind of like, we're already doing it. But anyways, nevertheless, it did incite a conversation. And there's another one that I was sent where it basically was looking at Black love. And someone asked me to review it. I didn't even get through the whole video. I got like 5-6 minutes in. But basically, the premise of the video up to that point was like Black love is exclusively associated with struggle love. And if you were a Black woman waiting for a good man, then you may be waiting until you die. And so that was really the whole premise of the video. And unfortunately, I wish that was just something I saw in a small corner. But there is a growing, I don't know if it's growing or if it's just maybe it's louder, but there is a large culture. It's like almost, it seems like a large subculture of Black women who are specifically encouraged to just under no circumstances believe like in Black love, believe in Black family, believe that essentially Black women should exist. And what I mean is anytime you have people who are so hell-bent on demonizing people in their community, hell-bent on demonizing even themselves, demonizing the men that look like them, demonizing the people, the fathers that they came from. Anytime someone is so hell-bent on that to the fact that they can't even look at facts, they can't even have an honest conversation, and they're so brainwashed by the narrative, that's what I'm saying. That kind of behavior is actually genocidal. That kind of behavior is dangerous. It is very, very, very dangerous. And just the two small little videos that I did, it wasn't even anything too crazy. I went and I looked at what was said. I examined the claim and I said, okay, is this true? Is this not true? Based upon what we see to be, evidence, based upon what we know to be true, is this claim factual? And so I'm just over here trying to have a conversation. And like I said, the amount of hate that I got, or just the amount of just people coming in being like, oh, Black love is struggle love, or Black dudes are dusty, leave them, divest, all the kind of different stuff. And I'm like, you actually haven't listened to anything that I said. You actually haven't engaged with the conversation. You're working backwards from your conclusion. And I'm saying that is a kind of behavior that actually leads, not only does it lead to destruction, like personal destruction, but that is the kind of behavior that will not lead to the reproduction of Black women. And to me, the reason I find this to be so alarming and so confusing is because some of these channels that I think are these spaces that are position themselves as being specifically for Black women, like specifically for Black women, those are the very channels that I see being hateful towards the idea of Black families, being hateful towards the idea of Black love, being hateful towards the idea of Black men. And in my head, I'm thinking, you do know that that is a total and utter complete contradiction. If you say you are for Black women, but you are not encouraging behavior that is going to lead to the reproduction of Black women, then what are we talking about? What are we really saying? And if everything that you are saying could literally come out of the mouth of a white supremacist, what else are you saying? Like, this just doesn't make any sense. And I'm not even going to sit here and lie. I remember talking to my husband like a few months ago, and he was trying to explain to me that there was like this big space, or there was a large culture, especially online, where it is accepted for Black women to just demean not only Black men, but just to just practice coonery, self-hating, whatever you may be. And I didn't really believe him. I was just like, yeah, it's just probably the spaces you're at. Maybe it's just what you're listening to. I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. I don't think it's that bad. But I would be lying if I was to say, like, yeah, there is. The sad thing is that there's actually money to be made. There is money to be made off of Black women who get around and talk bad about the very people that would be necessary to reproduce them. Like I said, the thing about it is we've created a culture where Black women are paid, or Black women are encouraged to they're encouraged to talk against and to speak against the concept of just Black families in general. They are encouraged for that. They are rewarded all kind of different ways. Now we can argue about that, but case in point, there's money to be made off of Black women creating a platform that says Black men are struggle dusties, or Black men are essentially struggles. The Black family is struggles. Therefore, we need to do X, Y, and Z. There's money to be made off of that. If that wasn't the case, then we wouldn't see what we see today growing or so loud on social media platforms. The issue is, and I've said this many times, we don't see this happening in other cultures without there being small repercussions. Kevin Samuels even talked about this not too long ago, where it was, I think it was Tommy Lauren, where she came out and she was saying all this damaging stuff about white men, and then like a day or two later, she come back and she cleaned her mess up. She apologized. She got her stuff in check, and he did a whole live on that. And he was basically saying, look, even white women, those who are feminist or those who are pro whatever, even they at the end of the day, they still have a check and balance. They still have a check and balance. You don't see other cultures. We don't see in the Chinese culture, entire communities of Chinese women openly coming out and saying Chinese men are horrible, Chinese men are this or this or that. Chinese men are struggle dusties, Chinese men are horrible fathers. I'm going to go over here and divest, creating channels and communities and groups based upon it, disparaging their men. We don't see that. I'm not to say there's not to say there's not struggles, not to say there's not challenges, but we wouldn't see that happening without there being repercussions. We don't see that for the Jewish community. We definitely don't see that for the Indian community. We just don't see that. So it's like somehow in the Black community, it's become okay for there to be such negative conversations, such disparaging, such attacking against the very concept that would lead to your existence, to your survival. And that is a problem. Now, what I will say is, and I've said this multiple times, I completely and totally am for anybody falling in love with who they want to fall in love with. I personally, I kind of get a little tired of all of the different videos that follow after men and their preferences. I'm like, look, if a man at the end of the day wants to marry a Becky, if he's attracted to someone who's mixed, or if he's attracted to a Black woman, attracted to someone who's Latino, who cares? I'm really like, who cares? That's his. Men have preferences. Women have preferences too. If a woman is attracted to somebody that has lighter skin or darker skin, whatever, I'm like, I legitimately do not care. Like, so to me, it's like all this focus on black men and their preferences and this and that. Me personally, I'm just like, this is so tired, because who cares? And also, meanwhile, Black women have the exact same preferences, but nobody ever checks them. So like, what are we even talking about? So that's just me. I think it's a silly conversation, because I'm like, a person should be able to marry whoever makes them happy and whoever they actually get along with. Case in point. But with that said, what I do have an issue with is that if in pursuit of doing that, if you decide to marry outside of the community, you go and bash. Not only do you bash your own community, but you create an entire culture dedicated to doing just that. That is unhealthy. That is wrong, and that is toxic. And like I said, that is the very kind of behavior that actually displays in your actions that you do not believe that Black women should exist. If you do not believe that it's possible to have good, healthy Black families, if you do not believe it's possible to be in a relationship with Black men in a healthy way, if you do not believe that is possible, if you believe Black love is struggle love, then you do not believe that Black women deserve to exist. You don't. You strictly don't, because by your actions, you are leading to the behavior that will lead to the extinction of them. And there is no community that exists where they thrive off of not coming together, where they thrive off of disparaging and fighting one another. That doesn't exist in any other community. You see communities growing and expanding as they continue to intermarry, as they continue to work together, as they continue to that that's how it works. So anyways, thank you for those of you who have hopped on. Please get the likes up, tag anybody on this podcast or this recording you think may find this interesting. We're talking about whether or not Black women deserve to exist. Okay, so I see some comments in here. Wow, you were so honest. These feminist Black modern women mindset is dangerous. Say it again, genocide. It says, why does a Black community continue to be incentivized to fall apart? Spooky times. Very good question. I mean, I think honestly, I think that's an entire other discussion. But as I mentioned before, I think one of the reasons it's so popular and it's so commonplace for Black women to be rewarded for being openly vocal about their dislike for their community and for their men. Um, I think there is actual financial incentive to do so. I mean, all we have to do, many of us just look back to our childhood, look back to the color purples, look back to the different episodes on Oprah that we saw, look back to the many different primetime television, series or late night shows I saw of single Black women being like, "Where are all the good Black men?" And having the round tables where they would be interviewed from like a white reporter who's like, "What's happening in your community?" And then be like, "Oh, all the Black men, they're in jail, they're gay, or they're married to Becky." I mean, I as a girl I remember those messages. There is one story in particular. It was on some primetime television, and it was focusing on Black women. And the whole premise of the story was to show how difficult it was for Black women to find love. And then I guess the resolution was that a Black woman could still be happy and successful and fulfilled by herself. And I remember them like focusing on like a female pastor, and she's like, I have Jesus as my husband, and it's going to be all right. And I remember seeing that as a young girl and low key being depressed and being like, oh my gosh, like, is this what it means to be Black woman? Like, this is the kind of stuff we saw coming up. And the underlying message is like, there is not good men out there for this. There's not enough available men. There's not X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C. That was the underlying message. And while we do know, like, yeah, okay, there's 2 million less Black men than women. In every culture, there's more women. Like, if you go across the board, there is more women than men. So that's not unique to Black culture. It's just not. And also, it's like, if we really want to believe that Black men are not interested in marrying, Black women, or in general, it's like, then why are there more Black men that are married than Black women? Why is there a higher percentage of Black men that are married than Black women? So that just shows that it's a lie. That a lot of us have just heard lies and just a lot of different weird stuff. And so that's what I'm saying. Some of my closest friends are in interracial relationships, or have dated out, or have married out. So to me, that it's not really the issue. The issue is that if in doing so you are promoting self-hate, or even if you're not, I actually believe, this is my personal opinion, but I believe that some of the main people pushing this, date and marry out stuff or divest stuff, some of these main people have never even dated a white person, or have never even dated outside of the community. They're just up stuff. Because like some of the things that I've heard, some of the advice that I've heard, some of the different ideas that I've heard, I'm just like, you've actually never talked to a white person. You've never been in a community with people outside of the Black community. If you believe these things, if you truly believe that you're going to marry, I don't know, a white guy, and all of a sudden he's just going to give you all this money, and you're going to be treated great, and he's going to accept you as you are, and not expect you to be really slim or healthy, or just love your 4C hair. Like, if you just believe all this stuff, like, there's not a culture associated with that person, and there's not expectations, and that white man doesn't have maybe a mother or a father or cousins or friends who are looking at him. It's like, you haven't actually been in relationship with these people. And again, like I said, I have friends, close friends, who are in interracial relationships. So it's like, it's It's a real thing. But that's why I hear some of these people pushing all this ideology, and I'm over here thinking like, are you actually saying this stuff, but secretly you are dating Tyrone, or that's been your only? Because I'm like, it don't sound like you actually. It's to me, it's similar to person who spends their whole time talking about luxury living. Because I'm like, if you actually really spend your whole entire life talking about luxury living, to me that shows that you really don't have money. Because people who really actually have money, who are like really living that lifestyle, it's common to them. It's normal to them. So they don't need to front, they don't need to promote it because it's not really anything special. It's their everyday experience. So that's what I'm saying. Like some of these people I feel like who are even promoting this lifestyle is like they ain't even really doing it. They just make this stuff up. Anyways, let me see. You're saying exactly what Ayana Vinzet said in an interview. Black women are incentivized, paid to perpetuate these divisions. Interesting, interesting. Um, but I believe that. I do believe there is incentive and there's money to be made, and I think that is partially why it's become popular and commonplace within Black culture. And to me, it's not healthy. It is not. It's not healthy. Not only is it healthy just for the Black community in general, just on a personal level. On a personal level, if you think so poorly of where you come from, so poorly of the people that look like you or whatever, then it's like, what does that say internally about your subconscious? What does that say about how you see yourself? And what I'm starting to recognize is like the conversation that we have with ourselves, that internal conversation, that internal dialogue, those thoughts, that impacts us greatly. And, some of these people I think who are so self hating, so bitter and angry, or come off as so bitter and angry at the men that reflect them. I'm like, what does that say about you? What does it say about you? So, anyways, for those of you who are on, thank you for joining me this late night. Please get the likes up, tag anybody on this who you think may find this interesting. We're talking about whether or not you believe Black women deserve to exist. What do y'all think? Let me know. Leave your questions or leave your comments in the comment section. I want to hear from you. Um, like I said, I'll say this. I completely believe that Black women deserve to exist. I love being a Black woman. I hope to have a Black daughter one day, So to me, there's a lot to love. But, and if I actually believe that, then that means my actions need to follow that. And for me, if I want to show by my actions that I believe that Black women deserve to exist, that means that I'm not going to promote anything that's going to lead to their self-destruction. That means I'm not going to promote anything that's going to be self-hating. That means I'm not going to promote anything that's going to encourage women to not be who they are. That's going to encourage women to downplay where they came from. That's going to encourage women to hate people or men in their community just because. I can't say that I love Black women or I love being a Black woman and support that. I can't do that. That's disrespectful. And as I said, I see this. Is this in regard to the kill Black male babies? Actually, no, this is not. I already did a video on that. You can check it out. I did a video on just Black on abortions and Cynthia G and just my take on that conversation. So the truth is, a lot of Black women right now are already aborting their kids, unfortunately, and there's reasons for this. There's reasons for this. That is not by happenstance. There's certainly been a push institutionally to make sure that is the case. And of course, this is not to remove personal responsibility, because a woman does have responsibility in that, but there are different variables that have made it to where Black women are a lot more susceptible and a lot more likely to kill their babies compared to other ethnicities. But anyways, that's another topic. So yes, if you would like to see my take on that, you can actually find it. I think it was sometime last week I talked about that. But anyways, this video is related to that, because what I found and what I started to notice was more and more of a narrative of it almost seems like a brainwashing. It seems like brainwashing. Like when you have a conversation with somebody and it's so illogical and there's no ability to actually uh look at facts, or there's no ability to actually look at the truth, or there's no ability to look at anything other than what they are saying. It's like you're talking to an empty shell. And that's when it's just like, what's going on here? Like, have you been brainwashed? Are you like spiritually darkened? Like, and I know that actually that I think in very many cases, very many instances, that is the case. So that's what I'm saying. As a black woman, you, case in point, you cannot say that you are for a black woman, you love black women, you are black woman femininity channel, self love, dark skinned black woman activism, powerism, black women are God, all that kind of stuff. You can't promote that and then disparage the idea of black love, black families, and black men. You can't do it. Because by your actions, you are showing that you do not believe that black women deserve to exist. That's what you're showing by your actions. Now, what I'm not saying is obviously there needs to be a space where you can talk honestly and have honest conversations about, like, okay, different challenges, have constructive conversations. I'm not saying you can't, point out issues or can't address issues, but seeking to resolve a problem, having a conversation, maybe having a tough conversation, or doing the tough things in hopes to resolve a problem and hopes to reconcile and hopes to do better, is different than just demeaning, damaging, and trying to insult or just tear down people. That those are two completely different things. So that's what I'm saying. Don't call yourself say that you love black women or that you're a black woman, whatever, that you are for us and that you're all this kind of stuff. And then and you believe something that's going to lead to your genocide. Because you have to know that if you have bought the lie that who you are, the men in your group, Black Love, Black Family, if you bought the lie that that is 100% going to be associated with struggle, then you are going to participate in your own self-genocide. You are. And I'm not saying just because somebody is dating or decides to marry somebody outside of the race that they are, because that, to me, that's different. It's more about the mindset. If you are so hell bent the fact that these men are so horrible, these men in the community are so horrible that they're not worth being with, then how quickly how quickly will we self-destruct? And honestly, I think that is, in very many ways, I think that's actually the plan. And like that probably is another podcast, but very very many ways I think that's the plan, the overall plan for Black Americans and America in general, because there was never, when this country was established, it was never under the premise that Black people would be seen as equals. That was the purpose of Black people in America, was never so that we could be seen or treated as equals. That's not how we got here. That's not even how this started. So I very much think it's the plan, whether if it's some people or whoever, but that's the overall plan, is to see the Black community self-destruct. And I think that's why there's been a lot of things systematically, socially, economically, politically, to make it hard for us to get ahead. But despite all those different things, some of the stuff just starts with self-accountability. And I think, unfortunately, there's many Black women, there's many of us who we've been told things that have been unhelpful, just about our self-esteem. And I even say this, that I can remember when I was in school, a young girl in school, and how there were years where I felt like, man, like as a Black woman or come from Black people, like we didn't do anything for modern society. We didn't contribute in any way. Like I believed this because of what I was told, because of what I was heard. And whether or not I knew it, that of course that created a lot of low self-esteem. Of course that created not really negative ideas about maybe who I was or about my potential, about things like that. And like I said, a lot of this stuff is self-conscious. And it wasn't until I got older, I started learning more, I started reading, started looking into different resources and understanding the rich culture that we came from, that I was like, hey, this is a lie. This is a lot of the stuff, not only is it just, it's hidden, some of the things that we're hearing are just blatant lies. And so I think there's just many Black women at the end of the day who they just hate themselves. They hate who God made. And that's bad. That's bad, because it's like, God didn't make any mistakes. He did not make no mistakes. I'm like, he did not make any mistakes. And so you shouldn't hate what God made. And unfortunately, like I said, there is a culture that exists where just self-hate is okay. Self-hate it's just become okay and celebrated, and it's become the norm. And self-hate is oftentimes couched in, oh well, it's his fault, it's his fault, it's his fault. Well, black men in this, black men in that. These dudes is dusty. These dudes don't know how to pay this. These dudes XYZ ABC. These dudes don't make enough money when black women make less money than men. Like just all this different stuff. And to me, it's just honestly, it is just a front for a women who have a very low sense of who they are and have a very low sense of their value. And instead of actually facing that, instead of actually looking in the mirror and saying, I don't like who I am, it's easier for them to point the finger to someone else. And that kind of behavior is never going to lead to anything good. So, so I dated black women that have self-sabotaging actions before, but this is an entirely different level. Yeah. Hey, you know what? I talked about this where there is times in my life where I look back and I very much had some self-sabotaging actions because the reality is there was a time when I very much believed like some of the common narratives like, oh man, most black men want Becky, or they're already taken or married, or like I very much, and I hate to say it, I was always one that was attracted to black men, so that's pretty much who I mostly dated because that was my preference. But I did believe that I was like, man, I guess they're not really dating us as much, and this and that. And I remember having a situation where a black man that I was interested in didn't want to date me because he's like, you're beautiful, but I can't date black women anymore. Like I've had bad experiences. So I could have looked at that and been like, man, like here's another situation. This good black man wants back, so I very much believed some of that stuff. And I had to go through my own process to actually realize that like, hey, there are things that I was believing that was just not true. And there's actually actions that I was doing, or there were things that I was, that there were actions that I was taking to basically sabotage the results that I wanted. I had to face that. I had to face the music and be like, hey, I was a common denominator in this different situation, or I actually was a problem. I had to face that. So self-sabotaging, I think, it's very much a real thing. And some of that stuff, like I said, is subconscious. It is subconscious, but there's never a chance to change, or there's never even a chance to do better if people can't just look in the mirror and call a spade and see what's going on. And I think the bigger picture is that one of the reasons there is such a common culture created on black women hating black men is because quite honestly they hate themselves. Many women hate themselves. They don't like their lives. They don't like how they look. They are upset that they feel like they're not so beautiful, which is why every 2 seconds, there's a black men and their preferences or talks about colorism, isms and darkisms, all that kind of different stuff, which I mean, I think there's a place for that. I don't think it's necessarily bad to address some of those things. But I think some of these bigger topics really they scratch the surface of what's really going on, which is just a lot of women feeling that they're at the bottom, or just a lot of women not liking who they are. And instead of saying, "Hey, I don't like who I am. I don't like where I come from. I don't like what my people stand for," all those instead of just facing that, it's just a lot easier to blame black men. And I'm saying that is the kind of behavior that will never help anyone. It won't help that person. It sure won't help people, things from a community standpoint. And I think people just have to be honest with what's going on. People have to be honest. It's crazy to say that because I've been told by our women that I look like I date white women. You know what's crazy? I have heard that. I've actually heard this from black men, educated black men in particular. I was shocked. I was shocked when I guess I had the opportunity to talk to really have a conversation with black men and hear their side of the story and hear them say, "Hey, black women didn't want me." Because for so long I heard women. I'm talking to women. I've had that experience, and we get together and it's like, girl, he don't want this. He over there with Becky. He over there with that Latina chick. Like, I had years and years of those conversations. So I never, ever, ever considered that it was happening the other way around. And eventually I found out that it was. And I was shocked. I was like, no way. Like, that's not happening. It's not happening to men, but it obviously is. So, it said, "Oh, early morning stream." Oh, okay, yeah, early morning. This is kind of late. But anyways, yeah. So anyway, thank you for those of you who hopped on. I think I am going to wrap up because it's getting kind of late. But yeah, I just wanted to say, just to recap, Obviously, I believe Black women deserve to live. Obviously, they deserve to exist. Obviously, I love Black women. I love being a Black woman. There's so much I love about, who I am and where I come from. But I will honestly say that if you say and you believe that you are a pro Black woman, you cannot be a supporter of Black love or Black family is associated with struggle love. You can't, because what that in essence leads to is a genocide of you. If you have already told yourself in your mind that if I get with a Black man, then he's automatically going to be a struggle dusty, or he's automatically going to be some bum, violent, whatever. If you told yourself that, what you are displaying in actions is that you don't believe little Black girls deserve to be created, because it does take a Black man and a Black woman to create a Black child. And even if you want to argue the whole one drop rule, yada yada yada, and you have a mixed child, if you teach her the same self-hating narrative, then what's, and she says, "Oh, well, these Black men over here, I'm gonna get me with Brad," then okay. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, look, if a person wants to date, to me, if a person wants to date either ethnicity, that's really not, to me, that's not the problem. The problem is when it's become acceptable to demonize an entire people group. It's become acceptable to demonize Black men. Become acceptable to associate Black family with struggle family, with 100% struggles, as if other cultures and other people don't have struggles, as if feminism did not start primarily from white women who were tired of struggling with their men. Like, that's bad. That's the kind of stuff that I think that leads to self-hate, that leads to self-disparaging. And if you really hate yourself, if you have low self-esteem, that it becomes, it's carried a whole bunch of different toxic issues. And that's what I'm saying. I think it is good to have honest conversations. It is good to have honest conversations with yourself and say, look, the reality is I'm blaming all these men. I'm saying Black men are horrible. They're horrible. That's horrible. All these people are horrible. Honestly, because I don't like myself. And I think if more people said that, if more women admitted that, hey, maybe the reason they are so bitter or angry against men is because internally they are upset with the decisions that they've made. If more women said that, I think that would actually start a really good and healthy conversation. One of the things that I've learned about really trying to have with really having a relationship with God, really walking with God, really being like, what does it mean to be a follower of Christ? One of the things that I've learned is that it is incredibly important to be honest. It's incredibly important to me. That is fundamental in being even remotely spiritual. There's no way you can be spiritual. There's no way you can be deep or conscious, whatever, and you're living a lie, and you're living on a false reality, and you're not calling a spade, and you're not honestly looking in the mirror and telling yourself what you see. That's like step one. You got to be honest with what's going on, and you can't hide behind facades. You can't hide behind blaming other people. You can't hide behind blaming men, blaming the government, blame Black men. Literally did a video on this where it's just blame Black men, because that's easy to do. But it's hard to look in the mirror and be like, okay, I am the reason for some of my challenges, or I just don't like myself. That's hard. So I believe Black women should exist. I believe Black families should continue to exist. And as a Black woman, if you believe the same, then don't ever believe any lies, or don't believe any ideology that leads to the genocide or the extinction of you. Because even if you think that you believe Black women exist, by your actions, you will be showing and portraying that you don't. You'll be showing and portraying that you actually don't like yourself, and you don't want to have daughters like you. And that's what you're going to be showing by your actions. So those are my thoughts. It's getting late. Thank you for those of you who've hopped on. I think I'm going to sign off. If you like this broadcast, please share it with anybody. You can also show support to my channel on Cash App and Venmo if you like my content, if you want to see more from me, if you want to get the message out there. I appreciate any support that I get. Also, I actually just released a channel membership not too long ago. So if you would like to support my channel and become a monthly member and receive more perks and more exclusive content, you can check out what I have available on my channel membership page. And thank you so much for listening. If you've gotten this far, we'll talk later. I'm going to sign out and go to bed. All right. Bye.